Uh, my name is Professor Boller, John Boller. I've been a co-director of undergraduate studies here now for, a long time, close to a couple of decades. And yeah, I'm just very happy about this opportunity to talk to you and what your placements mean and what the various paths might look like for you as you begin your mathematics careers with us here at University of Chicago. And welcome to the University of Chicago. Let's see. So the way I conceive of this little meeting right now is that I would like to share with you a portion of what I call our math course tree. So it starts at the bottom and works your way up with the various math courses you might take, depending on what your majors are, depending on what your interests are, and then we can talk from there. But I do think it's a very helpful starting point for looking at the way we think the course progressions go. And I think the other important thing I should say as I start to do that and share my image with this is that we are the math department. We are not the statistics department. We are not the computer science department. We're not the science department. Sarah Ziesler, Professor Ziesler and I represent the math department. So we can answer all your questions about math. Hopefully Carrie can answer some questions about the core at the University of Chicago and things like that, but we don't represent the other departments. So there might be other options that you need to consider, but we're here to speak about the mathematics courses and the mathematics options that you have. So with that, let me share with you, where is my screen share option? There it is. And okay, so I'm going to show you our math tree. Come on. There we go. And okay, that all looks like, it doesn't look like a tree. There's a version of it that I have drawn where it actually looks more like a tree. It grows up and out, and you see the branches. But the way to think of it is looking from the bottom up. So you've started and you've done the oval part at the bottom. You've taken your online placement test and you've gotten a result on the basis of that. And I would like to talk through what those various placements might look like. But first, I want to talk about what the course structures themselves look like. And so with that idea in mind, I'm going to annotate here. Almost everybody at this point will have an invitation to start at a particular portion of our calculus program. Now, at the University of Chicago, we have lots and lots of options for calculus, even just for regular single variable calculus. And that's partly to meet the differing entering needs and abilities of all of this large body of students. So if you look at this tree, you're up from the bottom, as I said, and the way to think about it is that the trunk of the tree is calculus. That's math 131, 132, 133 to the left, math 151, 152, 153 in the center, and math 161, 162, and 163 more or less over there to the right. Let me highlight those. No, that's not quite the right button. So I'm thinking of those here. That here is the math 130s sequence. Now, the other thing you'll know is if you've looked at the catalog for anything at the University of Chicago courses always have 5 digits. And yet here I'm indicating almost everything with 3-digit numbers. If there's ever a 3-digit number, that just means that the last 2 digits are double zero. So those 3 columns, in a sense, right? 131, 132, 133 that's one version of calculus. 151, 152, 153 is a second version, and 161, 162, 163 is a third version. You'll see there that there's a parenthetical 10 because there are actually 2 versions of that. So there's in fact 4 varieties of calculus that we offer here. So let me say a little bit about what those 3/4 varieties actually are. We think of math 150s, the middle one, as a more or less standard version of calculus. 151 is differential calculus, 152 is integral calculus, 153 does sequences and series, and then does some introductory topics in multivariable calculus, specifically with multiple integrals. Math 130s is the version of calculus that is, I guess I should back up and say the Math 150s is a standard course in the sense that it meets for 3 hours a week, either 2 1.5-hour sessions on Tuesday, Thursday, or 3 sessions Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There are lectures, there are homework sets, there are exams. It's a fairly standard course, at least as far as the structure of a University of Chicago course would go. The Math 130s is a beefed up version, let's say, of calculus. And it is meant for students where maybe your background isn't quite as solid in, let's say, some pre-calculus topics, maybe trigonometry, or maybe transcendental functions like exponentials and logarithms, or things like that. And the idea is that that course now meets for 6 hours a week. It meets 3 hours in standard lecture, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then 3 hours additionally on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where there's time to work in small problem groups and to patch any holes that might be there, just to make sure that everything's going smoothly, that there's enough time on topic to get everyone through the same essential amount of material. The Math 130s and the Math 150s essentially cover the same body of material. Math 130s does it more slowly, but there's twice as much time, right? So that way you get to the same place by the time you're done with the end of that first year calculus sequence. The Math 160s is our honors calculus. And this comes in two varieties, one of which is a standard, again, 3 hours of lecture per week, and then problem sessions and problem sets and exams. But it is almost entirely theoretical. The idea of the Math 160s is to be very invitational to you, to like, hey, let's rethink calculus from the beginning. Let's rethink maybe even all of mathematics from the beginning. What are the axioms for the real numbers? And why are these theorems true? And the emphasis is very much not about doing 10 problems of computing the derivative in Math 161, but rather, why is the chain rule the chain rule? Why does that work, and how do you prove it? Or where does the mean value theorem come from, and how do we use it to prove the fundamental theorem of calculus? Those kinds of thoughts are the thoughts that we have in honors calculus. And so if I'll get to the placements here in a second, but one way to think about that is that, yes, we would be asking you to restart calculus from the beginning, but from an entirely different point of view. So for example, you can't start in 162. That just doesn't make sense. Yeah, you might know the content of differential calculus, but 162 isn't even offered in the autumn. And you wouldn't have had our version of 161 in order to place ahead into 162. So that just doesn't even, that's not a thing. The last thing I'll say before I get to the placements then is that the second variety of honors calculus we call inquiry-based learning, IBL. That's taught on a Tuesday, Thursday, hour-and-a-half sessions twice a week. So it's still 3 hours a week. And it is still entirely theoretical, although we present the material in a very different order. So you don't get to differentiation actually until the second quarter, the winter quarter. But the idea of an IBL course is that the students go to the board and do all the proofs themselves. It's not lecture-based. It's very student-centered. So you go to problem sessions, you go to office hours, you work on them by yourselves, you figure out the proofs, and then come in and present them in class. And then we have a whole class discussion about whether or not the proofs work and how all the other pieces of everything fit together in a course like that. So those are the 4 varieties of calculus. Briefly, as we go up, we have a set of courses for physical sciences majors over here. There's a 4-quarter sequence in the 180s that follows at least second quarter calculus. It is at the same level, at least the starting point, it's at the same level as Math 153, the 3rd quarter of the standard calculus sequence, and then it goes from there. So there's a 4-quarter sequence for people in engineering, chemistry, statistics, physics, etc. The standard econ sequence is this 2-quarter sequence of courses. The first is a mathematical methods for economics course that does multivariable calculus with a focus on optimization problems that are particular to econ. Math 196 is a linear algebra course. It's a fairly standard linear algebra course for eigenvalues, eigenvectors, all the things you need to do in econometrics and so on. Anything that I have not yet circled is, if it's up, then that's higher in the math major. Anything above that's above the red, the yellow, and the green, that's the math major. And we can talk about that later, but that's not a placement option for you right now. But there are a couple of other courses that I do need to mention before we get into all the details. Down near the bottom, there are a couple other courses, specifically over there to the left. We have a one-off course Math 112 and a course Math 113. Those do satisfy the core requirements in the mathematical sciences, and they are equivalent to a Math 131 or 151 placement. Anybody is eligible to take those as long as you have a placement into first quarter calculus. But there is one other course that we do have, and it is Math 105, and that really is a pre-calculus course for those who need it. We find that there are maybe a dozen or two of you each year who really need some help with pre-calculus. And the reason to take that course is as a stepping stone into the Math 130s. The Math 105 course leads directly to Math 131, 132, and beyond. And it is a 1/4 autumn-only course that gets you to 131, 132. Okay, I'm already doing a lot of talking. Those are the courses. What are the placements that you might have received? Well, I'm going to redesign this. I'm going to redraw this. Let me go to an eraser here so that I can start over again. But that's where the various courses lead to as you go up into various different majors. Let's think about where the placements are. There are only, well, sorry, I'm making a little joke here. There are 5 essential placements, and then there are 4 interstitial, sort of in-between placements. And so let me indicate essentially what those are. There is 105. 105 is the lowest placement. There is 131. There is 151. There is 152. And there is 153. And we think of them essentially in that order moving up based on your summer placement test scores. So where did all that just go? Here we go. Nope, that's the wrong, I'm looking at the wrong thing. You with me for a second. So no, that's not what I meant to do. Grab that one up. Much better. Okay. Okay. Oh, I guess I didn't finish erasing. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've got these 5 essential placements. Again, just to remind you what those courses were, 105 is the pre-calculus course. 131 is the first quarter of the 3/4 sequence of our sort of slowed down, beefed up version of calculus, the Math 130s. 151, 152, and 153 are the 3/4 of the standard calculus sequence in, I would say, somewhat traditional order. 151 is differential calculus, 152 is integral calculus, and 153 is sequences and series and the beginnings of multivariable. In that order, there's a very small set of you that maybe, oh, it's certainly under 10% of you total, but maybe a few dozen of you total who might get an in-between. You might have an or placement. So you might have the option of 105 or 131. It meant you're kind of on the borderline. Look, our cutoff scores for these various things are not perfect. And so if somebody's there's like a fuzzy gray area that you're kind of on the border, maybe the high end of the 105, but a low end of 131. And so we are going to give you the option. And we're happy to advise you and talk to you about which might be the better option for you once we have a lot of advising meetings in September. But for now, just know that you might have that option. Similarly, there might be people who have an option between 131 and 151. There might be people who have an option between 151 and 152. And there might be people who have an option between 152 and 153. There you go. That's what your placement means. Now, some of these come with variations. So for example, Math 153 might be your listed placement, but notice that on the tree, it's on the same level as 150-250, the course for econ majors. It's on the same level as 183, the course for physical sciences majors. In fact, 196 is at the same level as well for those who want to take that linear algebra course first. That said, the econ department definitely recommends that you take them in the other order. So if you're going down a social sciences, down an econ path, you should be thinking 150-250 first rather than 196. 196 is fine to come later. But you do have the option. You're at least mathematically qualified to take 196 if that's your choice. The other thing is that back down at the bottom, if you have the highest possible placement, namely Math 153, you will have received a couple of invitations. And I think it's important that we call them invitations. They are not required. But along with that Math 153 placement, you might also get invited to honors calculus. You might also get invited to take our higher level placement test. And again, just as a reminder, you do have these other options that kind of extend out from Math 153. So along with 153, you have a number of other things to consider, and I'll talk about the higher level placement and so on in a minute. Some folks from 152 might also get a 161 invitation. That's what the dashed line here is meant for. It's sort of an invitation. Hey, you know, you did pretty well. If you'd like to try honors calculus, be our guest. And by the way, just while I'm here, the Math 160s, the honors calculus, is it for math majors? Well, sure. We want to train you up to do proofs and think about mathematics from a very conceptual, very theoretical point of view. But do you have to be a math major to take 160s? Absolutely not. We hope that this is a special course that we offer at the University of Chicago that not a lot of people would have an opportunity to take at other universities, honestly. And it's a special opportunity, and it can really make a difference in the way you think, just generally, let alone mathematically. And by the way, you know, we have hundreds of students who take Math 160s every year. So that's certainly more than the number of math majors. So if you have an invitation to Math 160s, please do at least consider it. It is math probably not like you've ever done before. This is not a solve the problem, do 10 of them, and I've mastered this skill kind of thinking. It's very, very different indeed. Okay, so where do we go from here? I don't know how much more there is to say about these, except that, well, I do see in the chat, for example, that people are asking about higher level placements. So maybe I should go in that direction next. If you have that invitation to take the higher level placement test, then please, and you would like to be higher than single variable calculus or some of these options that I've circled in orange and blue for the moment, then please do plan to take that higher level test. It is offered for a 24-hour window on the Tuesday into Wednesday after Labor Day, which I believe this year is September 2nd into the 3rd. Let me double check and make sure I've got my information correct about that. I don't care. Are you looking at this at any chance on the calendar? I think I've got that right.
About when the higher level exam is?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have it right in front of me, but let me pull it up.
There it is. Oh, no, I just got away from it. Yeah, I've got that in my calendar as being from basically Tuesday the 2nd at noon through Wednesday the 3rd at noon. So you've got a 24-hour window in which to take that. And actually, to be honest, we had a superbly high number of you qualify for that this year. So we hope that a lot of you will take it. On the basis of that higher level, oh, we move that over. You do potentially have a number of other options. Why is that not working? Hang on a second. So most of them are indicated by the dashed arrows that flow out from the higher level placement exam box down there at the bottom. And so let me see if I can indicate those. Some of your options that might then follow would include things like, let's maybe go with a different color entirely, Math 15910. That's an intro to proofs course where actually, yeah, you'd really, really know your calculus, great. And if you wanted to start doing proofs, by not maybe taking the whole 160 sequence, that's at least an option for you. I will say that we never designed Math 159 to be intended for first years. If you want to go into the math major, we definitely recommend the Math 160s over Math 159. You'll notice, for example, just as you go up the Math 150s pipeline there, if you get to Math 153, how do you get over up there to the right? There's no direct link. Well, but that's because you haven't done a proofs course yet. And that's what 159 is. 159 is the proofs course that gets you ready to take abstract linear algebra, analysis, and so on. But that's for people who have already taken calculus with us, or maybe are switching over to the math major in their second year, or maybe they're a grad student from the Booth School or the Harris School of Public Policy who would like to take math, but they've never done proofs either. So they take a proofs course and then start taking the more theoretical, higher level math courses. But if you're a first year and you haven't had proofs yet, then we think the better way to do it is the Math 160s, to take that year-long sequence and really, really master all of that stuff before moving up into analysis and abstract linear algebra. But 159 is an option for people who are in a hurry, and it seems like many of you might be. The other options that become available are things like analysis and abstract linear algebra. We have 4 varieties of analysis because we can afford to do these kinds of things. We've got resources, and so we have regular analysis, accelerated analysis, IBL analysis. There's the inquiry-based learning version of that with the students at the board presenting, and then there's honors analysis. This one over here, and that one really is special. It's true. I don't want to overemphasize how special it is, but for the 20 or 30 best students each year, we have a very souped up, very high-paced, sort of 20, 25, 30 hours a week kind of course that's very special called honors analysis. So those do become available for students who have done extremely well on the higher level placement exam, again, that we offer starting at noon on September 2nd. And on that exam, we are going to want to see, sure, some calculus and some multivariable calculus and some linear algebra. We want to see some proofs too, because the way you get past the proofs courses, the intro to proofs courses, the 160s and 159, is by showing us that you already know how to do some proofs. And so that's what we're looking for on that higher level placement test. That higher level placement test has long form answers. It's not just multiple choice. We want to read your proofs. And we have a team of professors who actually go and score that. And so you would get a higher level placement coming like within a week after you take that higher level placement test. So there turns out that in this 2-part process, there's many, many more placements than just the 5 standard orange placements and the blue invitations.
John, I don't know if this is the right place to ask this question, but one of the questions we had in the Q&A was about whether if they have an invitation to the higher level placement test, they can also take the accreditation exam.
You should not be taking both. We offer them at the same time so that you don't take both. Taking both does not compute for me. Let me say a word about what the accreditation exam is. You will know that the core, I've penciled it in over here on the left, right? The core, the mathematical sciences core, says that you have to take at least 1 mathematical sciences course in order to graduate from the University of Chicago. But that's part of the science 6-pack, right? You have to take at least 2 biological science, at least 2 physical science, and at least 1 mathematical science. But wait, that only adds up to 5. Right, then you have a wild card. If you choose to do the mathematical sciences requirement with a stat class, great, just take your 1 stat class and be done. If you choose to do it with a computer science class, great, take your 1 computer science class and be done. If you want 2 of those and count the other one as a wild card, wonderful, do that, that's great. If you take these little courses 112 and 113 over here to the side, those are number theory, geometry, they're interesting courses. I love teaching them, Professor Easter loves teaching them. They're great courses, they're core courses, but you can take 1 or both or whatever you like. But if you take calculus for your core, you must at least get through 2nd quarter calculus, either Math 132 or Math 152. If you start in 152 and pass, get a quality grade, then you get the back credit for Math 151. If you start in 131 and you take 131 and 132, great, you can stop there. You've satisfied the core requirements. Anything beyond that is for your major. But let's say you placed into Math 153. But actually, you're a history major. You don't want to have to take math that you already know and demonstrably already know. You should be able to just check the box and be done with the core already because you placed into Math 153. And that's a reasonable thought. Well, except I don't know that we trust our online placement enough, which is why we have the Calculus Accreditation Exam. So if you're that English major, if you're that history major, if you placed into 153, but I really actually would prefer not to take any more math, that's what the Calculus Accreditation Exam is for. You take that exam, same time window, by the way, it's September 2nd to September 3rd, that 24-hour window. You take that exam, you pass it, boom, check. You've got credit for Math 151 and 152, and your core requirement is satisfied. The idea of the higher level placement exam is that you want to be in higher level math and actually take higher level math. So why would you be taking that exam? By taking any higher level math course, and that includes Math 153, 15250, 183, 196, 159, anything except 160s, by taking a higher literal level at the tree here level, like 153 and up, if you take and pass any one of those courses, you get the back credit for 151 and 152, specifically for the purposes of satisfying the core requirements. So the reason to take the higher level placement exam is to get into and take a higher level math course. Once you take that course, you get the credit already anyway. So you don't need the calculus accreditation test. So to me, there's just no reason for you to be taking both. That doesn't make any sense to me. The one is for people who don't want to be taking math here at University of Chicago, and the one is for people who want to be taking math here at a high level. Let's see, what else is there to say? So there are some specific questions about these very high level placements, but we're not there yet, right? This is July. So let's ask those questions when we have another webinar like this in the second week of September after you've got the results from the higher level test.
John, I do see one in here that might be helpful to answer. If they have a conflict with that higher level exam date or the accreditation exam date, is there an alternative date available, or what should they do?
Well, we can probably make an arrangement. We'd have to make a personal arrangement with you and open the window for that. But it shouldn't be a week later, right? But like if they're sort of within 24 hours or something like that, we can probably figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of people in that position.
You will be getting a formal, those of you for that higher level placement, you will, or the calculus accreditation exam, those two other tests, you will be getting an email invitation to sign up for one or the other from us, but just not yet. There's no urgency in making that all happen. You'll be getting that soon enough. We haven't even looked at all your placement scores yet. Well, we have. We just don't know you. We've looked at the scores, right? But so, well, yeah, again, most of the questions that I'm seeing here seem to be asking about higher level math. And again, I would gently ask that we save some of those questions for the higher level math meeting. This placement discussion is really for everybody who might major in just about anything here. But the question was asked, so I will try to answer. If you do take honors calculus, and by the way, again, hundreds of students, we have what, 12? Sarah, 12 sections of honors calculus, right? It's incredible.
Yeah, it's about 12. Yeah,
it's really a wonderful option. What happens after that? Well, to be a math major, let's say, you would go and take an analysis sequence. You would take some algebra courses, including the abstract linear algebra course, the Math 20250, and then you would choose some electives, and you would take some science courses, and boom, you're a math major. That easy, right? We do think of the abstract linear algebra as a prerequisite, though, for the second quarter analysis sequence. So there's a little bit of discussion to be had there. You should take 20250. Strong students do get an invitation to take it alongside 163, for example, in the spring of their first year. Other students can take it in the autumn of their second year or winter of their second year if people wanted to do 203 first. So there's a lot of options around the abstract linear algebra, but it is meant to go before Math 204. Let's see, looking at, well, so there's a question about 160s versus 150s. 160s, again, is very theoretical. I'm not sure that it's more in terms of hours. It's sort of just more in terms of your brain's engagement with the math. It's different thinking, right? It's not so much of the problem solving that most of you are very good at that you've learned by taking your AP classes and things like that. It's a different kind of thinking. And once you get used to it, it's very exciting. If you're thinking, I guess the other thing then, so math 160s, right? So there's questions here about 160s versus 150s. Again, 150s is a more practical, solve the problem, meant for any major on campus. If it can lead you up into the physical sciences, it can lead you up into the social sciences. Calculus is still required for the psychology major, right? There's all kinds of reasons somebody might take calculus. If you just need to take calculus and you want to have a little fun with it, you might take honors calculus or not. You could take 150s, that's fine too. But math 150s, again, if you're thinking about a math major, or even if you're just thinking of math or something else, but if you're thinking math is one of those possibilities, I really would recommend the 160s as your best starting point. There's a question right that just popped in and I saw, I mean, so seeing 161 and 162, seeing 161 and 162, even if you already know some calculus, you're gonna see it very differently. So yeah, I would say absolutely consider taking the Honors Calc 160s. It is not really for people who've never seen calculus before. It's actually for people who have seen calculus before, but now we're gonna show you how the engine runs. We're gonna lift the hood and get in there and tinker and the question about 159, right? 159 is an intro to proofs course, but does it cover as much as the 160s? Of course not. It's a 1/4 course. It can't go back and we're not going to prove the fundamental theorem of calculus. We don't have time in 1/4 and we wouldn't have built everything up to that point, right? So we really, somebody in 159, you better know your calculus backwards and forwards. And now we're going to show you at least a little bit of theory in terms of the way sequences converge and how we should be thinking about, I don't know, accountability and bijective functions and all the things, all the other things that sort of complement the thinking of the standard calculus sequence of topics. But there's no way that 1/4 of proofwriting is as good as 3/4 of proofwriting. The only reason that a first year should take 159 is because you're taking 3 majors or something like that, which still doesn't make sense to me. I would still rather have you take the 160s. But.
So there's another half to one of those questions, which asks if this means that 160, 110 assumes you have a strong background in proofs already.
No.
The answer to that is no. We don't assume you have any background in proofs in the 160s. The whole point of the 160s is for you to learn how to prove things.
Let me see what kind of, speaking of that higher level test, what kind of proofs? Well, so the list of options is induction, contradiction, direct, and so, but those are the categories of proofs, but that's not how to do proofs, right? I mean, it's the proofs are in whatever topics. I mean, they could be from number theory or geometry or calculus or from anywhere. Let's see. Yeah, so there's a nice question here about the math major. Thank you for that. About what the other courses that are required. Again, my picture here is showing the very bottom of the tree keeps going. Actually, I should even share. Like we have this. We do have the full math tree is the following. And this isn't even full in the sense that it doesn't include any of the graduate courses. But this is the whole math tree. And the part that I just showed you below was only like the bottom half of it, right? So the whole math tree is actually enormous. We've got electives in algebra and topology, geometry, analysis, and so on. There's all kinds of great stuff up there. All the core algebra sequence, the point set topology class, right? There's just tons and tons of math that goes up higher up in the tree. But then we do also require some physical sciences courses, and those can be essentially anything from our sister departments in the physical sciences division. So physics, engineering, chemistry, geophysics, stat, computer science. Those courses count as these related courses in the math major, yes. Let me see here. So in particular, yes, the stat and chem courses would count for that. There we go. It's a question about 161.00 versus 161.10. Well, again, I think that's a question for a little bit for September. I think right now it's a matter of knowing that there exist these two options. Again, one is you're a student in the class. The professor gives lectures. Hopefully there's questions back and forth, of course, but it's a lecture-based class. Where the IBL version, no, really the students are the ones at the board continuously. The professor's there to guide the discussion. The professor's there to choose which student gets to present next and to make suggestions in case the class gets stuck and to make sure that eventually the proofs are right, because sometimes the class will agree that the proof is right, but the professor knows that, wait a minute, you missed a step. So the professor does play an important role, but it really is the students who are presenting nearly 100% of the time in an IBL class. So it does require a certain amount of bravery. It does require a certain amount of willingness to put yourself out there and be the center of the discussion, and to talk to your fellow students and to have that discussion and maybe be wrong occasionally, right? And need help in a live classroom environment. So there's that, but otherwise they get you to the same place, but in a different order of topics. One of the fun things about doing the IBL course is that instead of starting with the axioms for the real numbers, we start with the axioms for the continuum. So we're thinking about the line from its topological properties rather than from its numerical properties and its analytical properties, at least not at the beginning.
I think it's important to know that from the math department's point of view, we do not have a hierarchy between those two options. They're just two very different options stylistically, but we view them at the same level mathematically.
Let's see. Yeah, this is, we can, I know I was late to the party, but this doesn't have to last too much longer. Let's see if we can get some of these other questions answered though. How do you decide between the two? I don't know. I think, meet some second-year students who took it, get their opinions. Think about yourself as a student. But for either one, the 160.00, 161.00, or 161.10, we do hear back from students in the first week. Yeah, but everybody else already knows how to prove things. No, they don't. No, they don't. No. That's not what you're taking the course because we're going to teach you how to prove things in there. The tree. Well, yeah, the tree is huge, right? I mean, so a typical math major, picks and chooses from the electives, right? You take 3/4 of analysis, you take abstract linear algebra and maybe 2/4 of the analysis of the algebra sequence, and then you take 2 or 3 or 4 or 6 of the electives, whatever you have room for. But yeah, I would say a typical math major is taking 2 or more math courses in their junior and senior years. Yeah. Again, there's a question about the related courses in the math major, and yes, absolutely. Almost anything in the computer science department counts, or at least above. Well, there's 1 or 2 very low level courses that we don't count, but essentially any higher level course like graph theory would count. Yeah, absolutely.
John, this most recent question that just came in is an important one. Is it common for students to complete the Math 150s track and then do the Math 160s track? Do you want to answer that one or me?
No, not then. No. You choose now and you take those courses as a first year and then you go on from there. If you've taken the Math 150s and you would like to then, hey, wait a minute, maybe I do want to try out some more theoretical math. Well, now you're the student that Math 159 was designed for. That's when you choose that other shortcut option to get over into the math major by doing a proofs course like Math 159, so that you don't have to go back and retake the 160s from the beginning. No, 160s is meant for first-year students only.
Yeah,
so not only is it not common, like you can't and shouldn't do that. You couldn't even get credit for both of them. Like that, no, no, yeah. No, I know. I mean, I know you guys don't know, right? But that's not how that works. There's a question about 152, right? Oh, yeah. So what if you placed into 152, but maybe you have an invitation to 161? Well, yeah, by going back to 161, it does mean you're sort of starting back a quarter. But again, the reason you might be taking Math 161 is to see calculus from the beginning again, from this very conceptual, very proof-oriented orientation. And yeah, so to do that, you got to start at the beginning. Does that mean you're sort of a quarter off in terms of the credit you could have gotten? Well, yeah, but you're choosing a very exciting alternative, right? 152, if you just did 152, you'd be done. Core, check, check, you get the back credit for 151, I'm out of here. But if you're taking 152, maybe you're taking it because it's in your major anyway, and then you're going to go to 153 and higher. Well, 161, 162, 163 is going to get you to that same place 1 quarter later. we, again, for people who would like to try it, we do think the 161 option is a really, really good one.
John, so I'll just jump in to say that there are some math courses, if you're placing higher, that will grant you back credit upon successful completion of the course. That does not apply to all math courses. So if you need clarification on that as you go, your academic advisor can speak to that, or John could speak to that.
Right. So the whole back credit thing only applies to 151 and 152, and it's because of the core. There is not an option to place into Math 184 and get credit for 183. There is not an option to place into 207 honors analysis and get back credit for 151 and 152 and 153 and 161 and 162 and 122 and all these things. No. You only get back credit for the two courses that check the core requirement. And anything else, if it says you need some other course, well, then take a higher level course and replace it. So there, yeah, there's no, the back credit option exists really just for those two courses that satisfy the core requirement. Yeah, okay. Let's see. So let's say you're a math and econ potential double major. Interesting. Yeah. That's actually very common. And by the way, in case I'm the first person to tell you this, double majoring at the University of Chicago is very, very possible. Lots and lots and lots of people double major. And the math major in particular, it lends itself to double majoring because there's so much overlap. So it's not easy. It's math is a hard major, right? You know, and so is physics. And so like you came to the University of Chicago because you wanted to take good hard courses. I'm not saying it's easy, but structurally it's easy because there's so many courses that overlap. So we get lots of math physics double majors. We get lots of math CS double majors. We get lots of math stat double majors. We get lots of math econ double majors. Because guess what? Econ is super quantitative here, and they encourage their best students to go take more math. And then people come and take more math, and they realize they love it, and so then they become a double major. And we designed one version of our major to specifically allow that. So instead of taking, oh, but the math major I have to take all this physics and chemistry, but I really want to just be taking econ, right? So we have a version of the major where you take a bunch of econ courses instead of those physics and chemistry courses. So yeah, a double major between math and econ is very, very possible. And if you're sort of thinking that, well, again, math is one of the majors. So we think 160s is the better starting point. 150, 250 is a great course. You'll learn a lot of techniques in there, but it's not really a math major course. So you take the math 160s and then you take analysis for the purposes of your math major. And then econ says, oh, you took analysis. You don't even have to take math 150, 250 or math 196. So we think 160s is there, again, the better option. I saw there was an indicator that somebody's hand went up, Carrie, and I don't know what that means. I think the Q&A is the right way to get.
Yeah, so the hand went up, I think, from Krish Khanna, who's has a question in the Q&A second down.
There we go. Yeah. Oh, how have we finally settled on that? For those of you who place into honors analysis, and again, there might be 10 of you on the basis of that higher level exam. Yeah, starting in honors analysis, how do you get that done if we require you to take the linear algebra course before second quarter analysis? Yeah, maybe you should be. Maybe that person should be doubling up and taking abstract linear algebra in the first year, in that first quarter of your first year. We usually don't recommend that, but for somebody going into 207, that might be the option. And I would want to talk to you maybe individually in September about how best to make that work. So that math and econ double major, if you look at our catalog, there's the BA, there's the BS, there's the BS in applied math, and then there's the BS in math spec econ, specialization in econ. So you can see the details there. It's the familiar language around it is math spec econ. So, and then specifically, right, the idea is that those econ courses replace the PSD courses in the math major, except for first year chemistry or physics. Every version of the math major, you have to have a year of either chemistry or physics. Just basic first year chemistry or physics, not the higher level stuff.
So I think there's a really important question here about additional supports available to students outside of class who might need additional help. What are the benefits of making time to go to office hours?
Oh, everybody should go to office hours.
Yes.
Welcome to college. every professor is open to having you come to their office hours. Yes, please. So that's a built-in support that has nothing to do with math per se. The courses of ours that do have additional supports are, of course, the pre-calculus course, the Math 130s, where it's designed as a 6-hour-a-week course already anyway. The structure's built in. And then, sure, office hours, problem sessions, study groups, all kinds of things. But the ones where it really is factored in are the courses where we have folks who have demonstrated some weakness. And so that's why we have those additional supports already there for 105 and Math 130s, the 131, 132 sequence.
But I think you should also know that many instructors, if not most instructors, will be writing problem sets, homework assignments, where they're expecting many students to come to their office hours with questions. The default is not that only students who are struggling come to office hours. The default is that many people come to office hours, and that can be for help. It can be for enrichment because you have questions where you're trying to make connections to other things that you've learned. Office hours are very vibrant at the college level and not what you usually experience in high school at all.
The last question I see at the moment is the difference between our two varieties of honors calculus, the regular and the IBL. Switching is challenging, and the reason it is challenging is because they're going on different paths, right? So even after 2 weeks, whoa, that's not what I was doing in the other class. It can be extremely difficult to switch, and so it is important to make a good decision early, and we will again talk about that when we have our sort of math majory specific webinar in September for anybody who's looking for more advice rather than just a placement, right? But it's harder to go into IBL than to go from IBL. But even that, I wouldn't do it after more than a week or two.
Yeah, so I think if you choose the IBL version, you want to be giving it a serious chance, not just thinking, oh, I'll just sit in for a week or so and see if I like it, right? Because we don't let people come into it later. So kind of make it a serious investigation.
I'm looking at the question about the higher level placement exam. There are some multiple choice questions, but a lot of it is freehand, long form response. I think we just ask you to write it out and take a photo of it and upload it. So I don't think you don't have to format it with LaTeX or anything like that.
Yeah.
Oh, here you go. There's a question for you, Carrie. Does every major have their own department? There are majors that don't, right? There's majors that sit in between departments, right? But that's more in the social sciences and humanities. In the physical sciences, yeah, every major has its own department, except the CAM major, C-A-M, Computational and Applied Math, which is sort of a joint effort of computer science and stat and math. So they have their own director of undergraduate studies, but the major itself isn't quite in any one of the three departments. But essentially, otherwise, yeah, in the physical sciences, yes, every major has its own department, but in the humanities and social sciences, all bets are off.
John, I know we're getting close on time here. I did want to just interject a little bit about next steps for anybody who might have taken the placement late. So all placement exams, at least the initial level placement exams, were due on June 20th. All of those results for math have been posted. If you did take the placement late, we do check for any late submissions as well as any late AP and IB scores that might come in. And we do continue to update your placement throughout the summer. So if you are taking it late, please go ahead and take it as soon as possible. There's nothing special you need to do in Canvas. Everything is still open and available to you if you haven't taken it yet. You can also see the timeline of when you'll get those results on the Get Help page of the placement exam in Canvas. So if you're wondering, I took it late, when am I going to see the outcome? That schedule is posted there.
I see two questions that we haven't answered. There's one about the format of the accreditation exam and the difficulty. Well, I teach math, so I find it pretty easy, but you might not. I don't know. But the format is one of these. It's an online test. We have a lot of multiple choice questions and a couple longer form answers where we're going to see some calculations. And then the last question is actually possibly the trickiest one that we have. Let's say you're a physics major. How do you choose between 161 and 183? I wish I had good advice for you, because of course, as the math guy, I want you to try the 160s. But on the other hand, look, it's not for everybody. And if you just want to see all the math that you need in order to go do your physics major, 183, 184, and so on might be a fantastic option. In that sense, yeah, 160s would slow you down a little bit, right? Because you'd have to go 161, 162, 163, and then over and maybe see some of the multivariable or the analysis. But I'd like to think we could draw you over to take the theoretical version of 180s, which is our analysis sequence. You keep more doors open with the 160 than anything else. So, and all the content of the 180s would be available through higher level math, but you'd have to take a lot of higher level math to get there, right? You take analysis, you take differential equations, you could take, well, eventually PDE, right? I mean, there's a whole long chain of things that you might take in the pure math direction that would cover the same things as the 180s. But that's a hard choice. And if you're doing a single major, physics major, that's great. But I think you would have room in your schedule to be able to accommodate even the more theoretical math. If you were doing like a double physics and chemistry, then, oh man, that's going to be really tough to fit in that much math. And so then at that point, maybe the 180s is a better choice.
So I think the question that just came in is an important one to answer about whether or not AP, IB results affect higher level placement. They do not, right? Those are used only for your initial placement, if at all. But once you're in the higher level exam, those scores are no longer relevant.
Yeah, so I think that'd be fine if you're a strong student and reasonably confident, then yeah, just take the higher level test and take the higher level course and don't worry about the AP.
If you look at the college catalog under the examination credit page and you see that you have AP or IB scores that you haven't yet sent for some reason, and you do qualify for something, if the reason is money, I would ask that you reach out to us at casso@uchicago.edu. So CASSO@uchicago.edu. And we'll see if there's anything that we can do to assist.
So I think there's a couple of questions, John, here, which are both of the same variety, in that there are people who are saying, I got this placement, or I didn't get that placement, but I think I should have something different. What do I do?
Well, that's why we have a lot of advising meetings in September. Once we've got all the information, all those AP scores, all that higher level placement data, then we'll talk. Professor Ziesler, myself, Professor Stenova, we've got a number of people, Professor Kanyes will be available to discuss, and we can make adjustments, right? We can make adjustments and get you into a course that's not your specific placement. But
What about somebody requesting to take the higher level placement test who wasn't invited?
oh, we can do that. That's actually a really good question. Yeah, if you hey, wait a minute, I didn't get that invitation, but I think maybe I should have, or could I try it anyway? Yes, we're actually quite open to having people try that as long as your scores are close. Yeah, we can arrange that. I don't see any more questions at the moment. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong part of the window.
So there's been a few questions about cross-listing and what counts for things for the like, PCSD requirement, whether they can choose classes from all those kind of things.
Way
There's a
way
few,
ahead of yourself.
I know, it's like there's
way too early for that.
yeah. We're just trying to put people in a math class right now.
Essentially, yeah, we're just trying to get you into your first class, get you started on the right foot. Essentially, though, a cross-listed class can be counted as either, but not both at the same time, right? You can use a course for one purpose within a major. So let's say, one of our famous ones, Math Logic 1, Math 27700. It's listed as Math 277, it's listed as Computer Science 277. So let's say you take it in your math major. Can you count it as one of your math electives? Sure, it's listed in math. But if you prefer to count it as one of your 4 PSCD courses, well, yeah, it's listed as PSCD, so that counts too. But not both. You can't have it be one over here and one over here. So cross-listed courses work to your advantage in the sense that they give you that flexibility. No, the question, no, yeah. So you will be getting the invitations. I mean, it should be indicated, I hope, Carrie, right, that they will be getting it, but the actual invitation is, yeah, we're not going to worry about that just yet. We just got everything figured out. We'll be sending those out at probably end of next month, even, right? Like, I mean, you don't need it until September, but you know it's coming. So.
They just watch their email for that, right?
Sorry, Carrie, I didn't understand you on that one. I missed what.
They should watch email for that.
Yeah, it'll come through email, right? Yeah. Okay, there's a follow-up question on double counting cross-listed courses or something. I'm not even following the question as written. So count it. Yes. Well, okay. So that actually does make sense. So that's when I said that it's easy to double major here, and I mean easy structurally. So if you count a course like Math Logic 277, then yes, it can be counted as a PSCD course for purposes of the math major and also count as a course in the CS major. Yes, for that, you can double count things. That's actually one of the reasons that double majoring is so popular at the university, is that the college wrote the rules so that if you have 2 majors, a course can be counted in both. But what I mean is that within a major, no course can fill 2 slots.
It's really important that you talk to your academic advisor about anything you're trying to double count, though. So between 2 majors, it might work. Between a major and a minor, that's actually not allowed. So there are other rules that will prevent you from double counting courses. So it's important that you ask like your specific question to your advisor.
Let's see, there's a question about analysis versus the 180s. Well, you're going to see it a whole lot deeper in the analysis sequence. And probably in the 180s, you would see a few specific techniques that you might not see in analysis because there wasn't time to do that. So they're not identical, but anybody who can succeed in the analysis sequence certainly knows the major content of the 180 sequence, yeah. And then core prerequisites. Oh dear, this one might be for you, Carrie. Would 152.50 qualify as 152? I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think it means if you're required to take 152, could you take 152.50 instead?
Oh, well, no, that's not an automatic option. I mean, if your placement is 152, that's not the same as a 152.50 placement, which is that next level at the same level as 153. So no, that's not a standing option for you. We could, again, take an advising appointment in September and say, hey, well, yeah, your score actually was close. We could think about that, give the option to try. But that's right now, if you have a 152 placement, no, that's not an option. But for data science, I don't know. I'm not sure what their prerequisites are. And unfortunately, that's just, again, a separate department. So
In most cases, a lot of things like that are listed in the catalog. So a prerequisite for a certain course will be listed with that course on the department page in the college catalog. But again, these are all great questions for your academic advising appointment that I know those appointments started this week. John, I just want to recognize we're at time, so I don't know if you're welcome to still take a couple more questions, but up to you here.
well, I don't see any more though. If I'm reading the Q&A feature correctly, I don't see any more questions. So. All right. Well, again, thank you for sticking around. Sorry for the technical glitches at the beginning on my end, but nice to meet you all from a distance. And for those of you thinking about 160s, yeah, do it. And for those of you who have the option to take the higher level placement test, sure, why not? And otherwise, yeah, maybe I'll just say I'll look forward to meeting many of you in person in September. Thank you. And thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Carrie, for holding down the fort while I was figuring my end out and for helping out and being important resources in your own right.
No problem. Happy to help.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks everyone.